Ahead 6-0 Giant Lock and Newcastle Colts rugby union representative Jared Heaney showed tremendous speed and strength to score his second, putting Lambton 10-0 ahead. With some solid hits, defence was quickly turned into attack, winger Troy McCauley extending the lead from close range. But it was Heaney's third that gave Lambton an unbeatable 22-0 lead at the break and would have impressed local talent scouts. 2 tries from Drew Ralston assisted the visitors' cause, but quick thinking from Lambton's Shane Watton again stretched the margin. The South Coasters posted 2 further tries before winger Mark Horan produced another 4-pointer for Lambton to progress to the semis, where they'll confront Armidale's Duval High School.
Chris Volpe was fighting a fire which broke out yesterday along the New England Highway at Beresfield. As he approached a tree, the 19-year-old volunteer heard an explosion and then lost his sight.
I felt the glass and I felt the glass cut me.
Thanks to quick work by his colleagues who bandaged both eyes to stop the glass from moving around, Chris is unlikely to suffer permanent damage. While his vision will be blurred for a while, Chris knows it could have been much worse.
Oh yeah, I'm lucky it didn't cut me eyeball.
Chris and his colleagues say exploding bottles are a common hazard when fighting fires alongside busy roads. People toss out the bottles as they pass, not giving a second thought to what might occur months or even years later.
Arms is unavailable for the first match of the season against the Northwest on Saturday week. Former Shield player Steve Story will lead the side in his absence, which includes 2 new faces. Matthew Wagstaff will make his debut, while Stockton all-rounder John Allinson becomes a dual Newcastle rep, having turned out for the all-conquering rugby league team this season. Peter March and Dave Rickson were also unavailable for the season opener. In rugby union, Singleton has honoured its retiring Wallaby halfback Steve Merrick with a civic reception. Merrick played 2 tests against the All Blacks this season, but later announced he was standing down from the representative ranks. Singleton Mayor Neil McNamara expressing the feelings of most.
Because he showed that in at least one young man's life, the pursuit of money is not the all or the end of his existence. It was just a nice handy sideline, I might add, that Stephen.
And in surfing, the Hunter Institute's Taj Burrows has completed an outstanding 7 days, winning the regional schools final yesterday after taking out the state juniors last week. Nelson Bay's Luke Bartlett won the 17s boys, while Merriweather's Travis Lynch took out the 13s.
Despite a history of long meetings, last night's council gathering lasted just under an hour. It was one of the Lord Mayor's final official civic duties before stepping down from his position after 9 years in local government. The new council, to be voted in on September 9, will have to deal with a number of unresolved issues, including the future of the Hunter Street Mall. Last night, council deferred approving funds for the first stage of the $2.5 million revitalisation project. Plans include demolishing the overhead walkway linking the mall to the foreshore and setting up kiosks and markets in Kitely and Market Streets. But council did give conditional approval for a new joint venture at the Newcastle Airport. It has agreed to provide the infrastructure to set up a $2.4 million aerospace industry, which will look after maintenance and repairs of military aircraft and regional airlines, including Impulse. Port Stephens Council and both the state and federal governments are involved in the project. Melinda Smith, NBN News.
The Bears were the walking wounded after their draw with Gold Coast. Larson, Hearn, Hall, Florimo and Fairley thought to be out, but the Knights are expecting nearly all of them to be fit.
It's only definitely Fairley's out, and from what we can gather, everyone else is in, so he's a big loss, but you're not getting too carried away with the losses. I think that one bloke won't make too much difference for him.
Paul Harrigan's form is turning around when needed. His hit-ups in the Cronulla loss a sign he is looking to lead from the front.
As far as being the forwards are concerned, we know that if we do our job properly or do a little bit better than we have been, the chance of winning are much increased.
Tony Butterfield was running with the team this afternoon. He'll be needed to control the Bears down the middle of the paddock. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The fire brigade had little idea what it was dealing with when it was called to Toronto High School this afternoon. The chemical benzyl chloride had been spilt in a science laboratory, but the exact quantity was unknown. 2 officers were fitted out with full protective clothing and breathing equipment to enter the lab. There they found only a small spillage, which they quickly treated with soda ash. It's believed the chemical was being moved from one cupboard to another when it was splashed onto 3 students. They were quickly doused under the shower and taken to hospital as a precautionary measure. Benzyl chloride is used at the school by senior students studying organic science. It's highly toxic, flammable and corrosive. The students were released from hospital this afternoon. Up until today, councils in the Lower Hunter have made separate decisions on the environment. But with the launch of this strategy, there's now a regional approach which will surpass man-made boundaries. Jeff Jansen and Leanne Graham are just 2 of 13 people from Maitland, Wyong, Lake Macquarie, Newcastle, Port Stephens and Cessnock councils who've put together the strategy. They were given $45,000 from the federal government and 11 months to come up with a plan. One recommendation is an energy audit for developments valued at more than $500,000.
Now this will require the developer not to go to a great deal of expense, but to demonstrate that they've looked at the benefits of placing to take advantage of the sun and looking at solar hot water systems and the like.
Also suggested a regional air study.
Well, that's perhaps one of the bigger issues, and one of the recommendations is that there is an airshed study taken for the region, looking at the accumulation of pollutants that's in the air and the airstream or the path that those pollutants take within the region.
While some of the recommendations can be implemented straight away and with minimal cost, others require government funding, the regional approach helping with any financial request.
It'll increase their chances of government funding immeasurably by acting cooperatively and more strategically when they all get together.
The Pizza Hut at Green Hills near Maitland was closed this morning. Last night, as an employee emptied a bin, he was confronted by a man wearing a balaclava and carrying a shotgun. He ordered the pizza worker into the restaurant where 2 females were preparing to close for the night.
The 3 employees were then ordered to get onto the floor, and shortly after that were placed into the cool room.
The employees released themselves from the cool room once they were sure the man had left. They discovered an amount of money had been taken from an office and immediately called police. Although no one was injured, all 3 were badly shaken. Jodie McKay, NBN News. month, around 400 robberies occur from houses and businesses in the Hunter region. It's a traumatic experience for victims who find their personal belongings violated. Previously, there's been little support for them, but now with this information kit, there's advice and counselling on hand.
When you think victims of crime, you think obviously your rapes and your murders and your more serious assaults, but a lot of people, particularly the elderly, can be very traumatised by someone breaking into their house.
It's also been difficult for police to follow up on break-and-enters. Now neighbouring properties will be notified of the robbery and given a form seeking their assistance.
If your house is broken into, it's nice to think that if somebody local's seen it, that the police are going to be able to find out from them.
The security industry supports the package and in the kit suggests ways to make it harder for thieves.
Just giving householders tips on what they can do to help prevent their place being burgled, their homes from being robbed, and information on how they can enhance their security, and just giving them a contact number should they require independent advice.
This is the third rally in Newcastle against nuclear testing, a small crowd gathering in the Hunter Street Mall to voice their anger. Speakers included David Tuanuku, a delegate with the South Pacific and Oceania Council of Trade Unions. He has worked with Australian unions to try and stop the French through industrial action.
For example, in the Solomon Islands where I come from, we have put a black ban on any visit by any French vessels or any French aircraft.
Money raised from today's rally will go to the trade unions' work. Mr Tuanuku said he was thrilled by the support from all Australians against the French.
The 36ers got away by 10 in the opening stages. The margin would have been greater but for Butch Hayes. He and Tony Jensen then sparked a major turnaround as a 31-7 run gave the Falcons a 53-49 halftime lead. The tide turned again in the third quarter as the likes of Jojo English began to take control for Adelaide. He finished with 19 and Robert Rose 16, while Jensen was left nursing a wobbly front tooth after an accidental run-in with Kruger. The Falcons 15-9 for the season and slipping from second on the table.
When police returned to the crash site, the body of the tiny girl was found. She had been flung under a car seat. The vehicle has been impounded with an investigation to follow. Police believe the child was travelling in a basket and not a baby capsule. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Held at Spears Point Park, the crowd rocked to an old-fashioned beat, but it was the future of the environment that was most on their minds. Exhibitors like Hunter Water promoted water conservation. People living in the Upper Hunter are already setting a good example, consuming 30% less water than the national average.
I think the main purpose, I guess, is to encourage people to be more aware. I think people are becoming more aware of ways in which they can, I guess, maintain the environment and in fact improve it.
Lake Macquarie's fish stocks were replenished with this Free of Fish scheme. 2,000 sand whiting were released into the lake. Free saplings were given away, but one needed to choose carefully, the largest gum estimated to grow to 25 metres. This is pedal power with a difference, a bicycle with an engine.
We see this as a very practical alternative to a second car at least.
Jane Anderson, NBN News.
Somebody's got to hand it down anyway. Yep.
A life member of the ASF, Dave Williams, has been involved with the local federation for 18 years and its chairman for the past 13. Last night the tributes flowed, as they did for the Codes Player of the Year.
The winner of the NBN Television Player of the Year is Danny Burke from Strait City Soccer Club.
To accept the award on his behalf.
He'd been a highly talented junior who probably lost his way a little bit, and we offered him a chance to play in the National League, and he grabbed it with both hands, and he was a tremendous asset to the Northern Federation's team during the summer.
West Wallsend's Glenn Moore was named Rookie of the Year, while Highfield's Joe Senkowski was honoured with a Coach's Award.
I accepted the challenge and the position to take on, a position with the Newcastle Breakers, mainly because I badly wanted to see the club go ahead, and I thought I could play a role in that challenge.
Meantime, the semi-finals of the Bill Turner Cup start tonight at Spears Point, with local hopes resting with Lambton High.
So her phone calls seem to last all day. Don't worry, look at it this way. The longer each call takes, the fewer calls she makes.
Sep Owen has been putting pen to paper since his early school days. While studying to become an eye doctor, he was editor of a number of college publications and during the past 30 years has become a popular newspaper columnist.
Oh, well, you've got to have a hobby, haven't you? And it's a way of expressing yourself. And I suppose the answer in a word is fun, in my case. I'm sick of the way people whine over trouble they have with their spine. They're just whingers and bores. So don't talk about yours when I'm wanting to talk about mine.
Grin and Tonic is Sep's sixth book, 80 pages of limericks and poems, his inspiration drawn from everyday events.
Funny things people say, or they're not necessarily funny, but they're usable. Situations. We're all involved in them all the time. That's life.
The Newcastle-based wordsmith has often been outspoken for his views on the correct use of language and the lack of grammar.
My great regret is that grammar is forgotten now, and so the present generation of school children are taught by people who were not taught grammar. So it's a vicious cycle.
The dispute between the P&C Association and the Education Department erupted after Merewether High's principal retired last term. The department planned to find a replacement using a merit selection process, but in the wake of the recent Education Department restructure, it opted for a priority system, allowing some of the former directors of schools displaced in the shake-up to apply for the job. The school's P&C fiercely supported selection by merit. A meeting at the State Office in Sydney late yesterday resulted in a compromise offer. The new principal would be selected by a 5-member panel using both the priority and the merit system. The department claims while the P&C's opinion would be valued, the association would not make the final decision.
There is a legal framework which does not give the community in the way in which it appears to have been perceived, that the majority vote in the community decides who is the principal. That simply is not true.
The P&C is certainly, in the case of merit selection, allowed the opportunity to certainly express opinions and be a very active participant in the merit selection process.
The new offer will be considered at a special P&C meeting at Merewether High tonight.
Technology has entered stock selling at the Scone sale yards. A new weighbridge and scale room is electronically controlled, with computerised data on pre-sale information displayed on a video screen.
Our computer system was outdated and we were looking to provide both buyer and seller with a lot more information regarding the livestock that they were buying. The other reason was to improve the flow of the cattle through the ring and therefore the speed of the sale, which all makes for a better sale.
The cattle flow has been improved, laneways fitted with rubber cladding to avoid bruising of stock. Stockmen also have better conditions, including a separate catwalk and drafting facilities. Stock selling began in Scone 90 years ago, and the yards have been upgraded to hold 2,500 head of stock. It's now a regional livestock market serving Murrurundi, Merriwa and Muswellbrook Shires, as well as the Scone district. Governor Sinclair, himself a cattle breeder, opened the facilities. Although the drought has affected the flow of stock to the market, Scone is looking to the return of the times when the annual turnover of stock was 100,000 head, worth $40 million.
It's taken a year for a Chamber of Commerce task force to put together this report on our inner-city transport system, which was presented to business leaders today. The report suggests that to revitalise the CBD, there needs to be a light rail network from the city to Newcastle University, which utilises existing track work. Along the way, there'd be developments on idle SRA land, all aimed at opening up the city.
I think that once the railway fences come down and we put light rail vehicles on the existing railway track, we can landscape the whole city and we can allow the CBD area to flow right into the foreshore.
Task Force Coordinator Rob Chenery says around $17 million would need to be spent on existing infrastructure. The government would benefit by selling or developing the surplus SRA land.
We're just saying take a different direction, you won't spend any more money, in fact you'll spend less money.
The plan, though, is only a guide to what the Chamber of Commerce believes is possible for the city. To work, it needs community and state government support.
We need strong political support in Sydney from our ministers, and we need to work as one community to tell our politicians we want this.
It was pouring rain last night when brigades arrived at the Bailey Street house just after 11 o'clock.
The whole front of the house was involved in fire. By the time we got our hoses round the side, the fire got through the back rooms.
The fire spread so quickly, nothing in the house could be saved. This morning, Brenda Sutherland told how she rescued her son George and daughter Catherine moments before the blaze engulfed their bedrooms.
It would have been a matter of maybe even not even a minute, and my son would have been, I'm sure, would have been burnt.
Neighbours Colin Gibbons and Dean Voigt first noticed the fire. They yelled for the family to flee the house and then used a garden hose to try to douse the flames.
20 seconds maximum, it just seemed to fly through it. I've never seen a fire go through a house so quick in all my life.
It's pretty horrific. It's the closest I've ever been to a fire, and I don't want to ever be there again, I'll tell you.
Police have no doubt the blaze was deliberately lit. They found evidence that petrol was poured over the front veranda. In the last 8 months, 2 other fires have occurred at the house. On separate occasions, a whiz bin and a mattress were set alight. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Lambton High and the Blue came out firing last night just 2 minutes in, and Kristen Chesky put one in the back of the net. 1-0 and the locals were fighting for a final spot, but Yeppoon from Queensland came back in the 7th minute and then turned up the heat with a carbon copy soon after. But Lambton wouldn't say die. Murray Cooper hit the equaliser to tie it up at 2-2 at half-time. The Queenslanders, however, seemed more determined in the second half, scoring a flurry of goals to move on to tonight's final with a 4-2 win. Yeppoon's opponent will be Sydney's Westfield Sports High after they thrashed Holy Spirit College 5-0.
All heavy vehicles involved in crashes have been examined by the RTA for some time, but a new survey is taking in cars, vans, motorcycles and trailers, and not only those involved in serious crashes. Vehicles selected are photographed at the crash scene and then examined in detail, either at a panel beater shop or, if the car is still drivable, at the owner's home. The 40-page questionnaire covers everything from who serviced the vehicle to the condition of the brakes, tyres, suspension, even windscreen wipers. The information is being collated by a private consultant, the aim to get an overall picture of vehicle defects.
It's been designed to cover a full range of weather conditions and times over the period of the 12 months of the survey that is designed to run.
The RTA says if defects are uncovered, there could be action against the inspection station issuing the vehicle's last pink slip. Inspectors seek a verbal OK from the vehicle owners to carry out the examination, but the RTA says it has the power to still do the inspection even if an owner doesn't cooperate, and defect notices will be issued where necessary. The data gathered will be used to assess both vehicle design and the effectiveness of the current annual inspection. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
Organised by students from the Newcastle College of TAFE, speakers from the Pacific Islands student body, the Greens and the college kept the anti-nuclear issue alive.
Millions of people throughout the world, including the South Pacific region, are totally opposed to the idea of producing, testing and storage of weapons of mass destruction.
The low-key protest was well attended, the Newcastle students happy to make their stand against the French in a peaceful manner, despite the heated commentary.
If they want to take the risk, they should take the risk in Paris, in France, and not in the South Pacific.